I'm sure that in some point in your lives you have all heard the phrase, oh, that is a man's job, or oh, that is a woman's job. In today's society, we tend to assume jobs are specific to one gender. For example, a construction worker is supposed to be a male and a nurse is supposed to be a woman. What about the wage gap differences between men and women in different jobs? Should women get paid the same as men in the construction field? Coming from a construction background my whole life, this is something that has interested me and I wanted to talk about with you this topic. First, I will start by talking about what the gender wage gap is and how it was created. I will also be talking about why it still exists and my personal history in the construction field. I will close with why women should be making the same amount as men in this field. Let's begin with what the gender wage gap is. According to an article published online from Pay Equity Commission, the gender wage gap is the difference between wages earned by men and women. In almost every occupation, men are getting paid more than women are. This article from 2018 in Danella News states the Census Bureau estimated in 2015 that women make 79.6 cents for every dollar that a man makes, while Labor Department data shows 82 cents. For example, if Jane and John worked the same job in the same exact place doing the same exact thing, John would still be making more. In one graph provided by the Institute for Women's Policy and Research in 2018, women's median pay per week is around $676, while men's median pay per week is $907. This is over $200 difference weekly. Working a 40-hour work week, 48 weeks out of the year, that difference would be around $11,000. Now let's talk about why there is a gender wage gap. When starting a new job, most of the time you're asked your past experiences or work history, and based on this information, it can increase one's base salary. In the construction field, most of the time, your pay is set by a contractor who hires you to do a specific job. This is where the gender wage gap starts. Most contractors still think that women cannot do as good of a job or still can't do the same work as men. Another thing that causes the gender wage gap is caused by females themselves. There are not enough female role models in the construction field to show other women that they can work in this field. There is also a lack of schooling. When a woman is looking for a job and needs to go to school, she is often turned down from that school just based on her gender. Even though there is still a gender wage gap in construction, it is one of the lowest. This article from NBC News says, women in construction earn an average of 95.7% of what men make, an 18% bump over the typical 81.1% wage gap found in other industries. Even in what is considered female occupations, men are still earning more. This picture shows some of the percentages of what women make to the dollar of what men make. IWPR.org states, women earn less than men in each of the largest occupations for women. The gender wage gap among 20 most common occupations is largest for financial managers with a gender earning ratio for full-time work of 71.1%, corresponding to a wage gap of 28.9%, which amounts to $497 less per week for women than men. In the union, men and women are paid the same salary if they have the same job. This example from Construction Dive explains this. For example, a female journey worker electrician in Baltimore will be paid the same as a male journey worker electrician in Baltimore. The union does not allow them to have a different wage. This is because when you join a union, you sign a contract, and in that contract it states that they cannot pay you a different amount of money based on your gender. Now I will be talking about my personal experience and how it sparked my interest in this topic. My whole family has a past in construction, so it was natural for me to apply at a building materials place when I was old enough to start working. As I was being hired, there was also another person being hired, a male. I only had little experience in this field, but I knew enough starting out that I managed well. The male, on the other hand, had little to no experience and was not prepared for much. At first, I did not find out how much more he was getting paid than me until he stated something about it. He was getting paid $3 more an hour than me when we both started out. As time goes on and a year passes, everyone else is getting bonuses and raises for their yearly except me. Granted, I was only a part-time worker, but I never missed a day's work. When I worked when I was scheduled, and I even came in when I was needed and not scheduled. I was still learning very quickly though. I worked there for 2 years and never got a raise. Why? Because I knew nothing about construction work because I was a young female. Now let's talk about the solution to this problem. Women should get the same amount of pay as men do in the construction field. As long as they have the same amount of experience, working the same job in the same place, doing the same amount of work, there should be no difference in pay. It should not be based on gender, but rather how well they actually work or their past experience. In today's society, women are also looked at to provide more for their families. If this is true, then why are women still getting paid less? This quote from an article on Center for American Progress also puts another point into perspective. The unemployment rate among adult males has risen 2.8% points over the last year, up to 7.2%. In comparison with that of all adult women, which has risen 1.6 percentage points, up to 5.9%. Job losses have particularly affected manufacturing, construction, and temporary help industries that traditionally employ men other than women. With men losing their jobs more, women are having to provide for their family, but it is still hard considering they are being paid much less. In conclusion, we have looked at what the gender wage gap is and why it exists. We have also looked at the wage gap in construction work and what changes should be made. I want to leave you with this quote from Susan B. Anthony: "Join the union, girls, and together say equal pay for equal work."